Good afternoon. My name is Nima Mohammadi.
I'm Sam Eure, and we're here representing the Quantifying Gerrymandering Bass Connections team. Over the past year, our group has been continuing the research that actually started over 2 years ago with the Data Plus project that was also quantifying gerrymandering. So, what is gerrymandering? We're defining it as the drawing of political districting lines in order to disadvantage certain groups of people. These are usually racial or partisan groups. This is usually done by either diluting how their votes are counted up or packing them into one area. But it's a little unclear how this impacts overall elections in general. So let's look at an example of where gerrymandering may have occurred. In 2016, in the United States, for the North Carolina in the United States for the House of Representatives election, you had about half of people voting Democrat and about half voting Republican. However, of the 13 seats in North Carolina, 10 went to the Republicans and only 3 went to the Democrats. This might seem a little off or unusual. However, we don't exactly know how off this is or how unusual this is. Because of this, that we're developing more quantitative methods to identify and qualify or quantify gerrymandering with the hopes that our research will ultimately make elections more fair in the future. In order to do this, we first need to identify gerrymandering. Now, this isn't as easy as one might expect. For instance, 2 of these maps are gerrymandered. You might suspect the top one is gerrymandered because the lines are kind of squiggly. However, the other 2, it's a little less clear. The center one's gerrymandered. You might not be able to just tell that by looking at them. It's because of this and these kind of questions that we need to develop better, more, more unbiased methods for identifying gerrymandering. Our team takes the approach of drawing tens of thousands of alternative districting plans that are drawn in an unbiased way that could have been used in that 2016 election. In fact, we have a team that only develops these methods and implements them in a mathematical context. We then give these tens of thousands of maps to a different part of our team who asks the question, what would the election outcome have been had we used these tens of thousands of unbiased maps? From this, we can start to build up an idea of what the typical outcome of an election would be. From this data, it looks like 4 to 6 Democratic seats is typical. However, in 2016, less than 3% of the maps actually showed the results that we saw in our data. This is the technique that we use to quantify and identify gerrymandering.
So now Sam took you guys through the process by which voters are packed deliberately into specific districts. However, how much of this packing, how much of these election outcomes can we truly attribute to gerrymandering? What if, based on the geographical and human geographical features of an area, voting outcomes occur in a specific way? Take a look at these 2 maps of actual election outcomes in 2016 for Franklin-Nash County, the seat of Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and Guilford County, who's centered in Greensboro. For Franklin-Nash, we really see a disparate change between the makeup of blue Democrats and red Republicans. However, for Guilford, it becomes a lot more stringent and stark of a divide between that urban center, which seemingly a lot of voters share similar cultural identity, political values, and the outside regions. And we have an entire team dedicated to studying this. We also want to get out in a macro level and see what this impact of gerrymandering that occurs on a state-by-state basis at the national level. This research is currently ongoing. However, we really try to create a framework of objectivity by studying the relativistic shifts across historical elections using simulations to see what kind of a shift an election creates and how sensitive a state's plans are to that shift. And finally, we wanted to bring forward to you guys how our research really influences policy in the form of friend of the court amicus briefs, as well as expert testimony by our faculty. The Gerrymandering Lab's research has been shown in a case in Supreme Court dealing in Wisconsin that you may have heard about in recent years, as well as very recently in the state of North Carolina that may have been in the news. And In future months, be on the lookout in July 15, a new case that concerns the North Carolina legislature will be discussed. Um, we finally would love to thank all of the people that have contributed to this project, starting with its Data Plus and Math Department iterations, to Bass Connections taking us on and providing that yearly turnout of students that really contribute to a lot of this work that's had clearly national impacts. Thank you very much.